Welcome to Underdog Hoops, presented by great coaches in our basketball community. From the Underdog Hoops studio in Rancho Cucamonga, California, here is your host, Sam Farrar.
Yeah, there's a big all kind of parents spoon feed their kids tons of stuff, and it's like, and then you hear it after the fact about stuff, and it's like because the parents upset or the parents this and or that or whatever, and uh, I'm like, and then you get to a coach's meeting or something with your athletic director, and I just tell the parents like, look, if you think he's that great, like that's okay, but he's not better than this person. I don't bring up their name. I just say I don't think he's that as skilled as, or he needs to improve at this to get more playing time or whatever. Because a lot of that is in California. It's kind of um, oh, playing time, playing time, playing time. Not
It's
everyone's gonna,
that's I would argue that's the same. I don't in California, Alaska,
yeah, anywhere.
I think that's anywhere you go. One of the things that's big with me, and I do it every year as soon as the team's made, it's level setting the expectations for people and for players walking through the door. So players know where they stand, right? That dynamic around who plays and who doesn't play. Players know where they stand. They know who's better. This guy's better than this guy, or this guy's better than. They figure that stuff out. What the pecking order is, real quick, like real quick. Like when you get your squad of 10 or 13,
Yep.
the players will. Little Jimmy and little Billy are option one and option two, and everybody else is option three, four. That doesn't mean that the other people aren't going to be involved, but it means when we need a bucket or we need a 2 points or a three or we need something to get a defensive stop, him are going to be involved in the play, like for sure. So one of the things that I found really, really successful when you're talking about parents that are all, my son's going to the pros or my son's this, is level setting those expectations before you
Yep.
ever season. So I have a really good, I've done it now for almost 15 years, is I have a script at the start of the season. And I say, listen, I know normally for girls, I take 13 girls. For boys, I take 12 boys. And I tell them right at the start of the season, I'd like all parents outside, leave the kids. And I leave the kids with my assistant coach. And I pull them all into a room and I said, okay, congratulations on making a rep basketball team, right? Making an AAU team. Your son, your daughter, we're going to work with them all year long. And they're going to get better. Like I'm telling you now, they will get better. But I am going to tell you all something very quick. My job as the coach is to put the best team that I think as a coach gives us the best chance to win. It's not about your son, little Jimmy. It's about us as a team. Now, if you're not good with that, this isn't the team for you, because I don't put any one player, including my own, who is nationally ranked as a player, above anybody else. It is about winning. That is what dictates the difference. And if you believe that your son or your daughter is more important than the team and us winning, tell me and I'll refund your money right now. Because that level sets the expectations for all parents and everybody walking through the door. If it's about you and not about we, then we shouldn't be having this conversation and you should go look to play for another coach. And as soon as you have those conversations before the season starts, everybody knows where they stand. And then the last thing is,
Exactly.
I've done this, and I'll tell these guys all the time, I have done this longer than you have. I have played at the level that you're trying to get little Jimmy or little Billy to get to after they're done playing here. I'm going to tell you what it takes to play at that level. Now, you may not believe me, and you may want to go talk to other coaches, and I'm okay with all of that. But do not think for a minute that I am not putting what is best for this team first versus what's best for your son or daughter first. Because if it's about your son or daughter, then I suggest you go find a coach that's going to believe in your son or daughter more than what you currently do. Because right now, everybody's the same standard walking through the door. My job is to pick the best five to start the game and then substitute in the next best three. based on what I see for skill, what I see in how they're going to execute what I want to do on both offense and defense. And if you think you can do that job better than me, here's the whistle. She's all yours. And most parents, when you do that and have that approach, we're good. All good, coach. You have at her. And they all step back. I've had new parents. I've had parents come from other cities, other towns, far away to come and play for me. And they hear that and they're like, totally get it where we're coming from. Totally understand where you're coming from. It's refreshing, right? And the one thing I say, when because players do the same thing, they come up to you and ask, how do I get more PT? And the easiest thing I say is, okay, how do you get more playing time? You want more playing time, Billy? I said, yeah. I said, okay, look across there. You see Jimmy, Johnny, and Jason. Yeah. All three of those guys are better at what we do on our team than them. You got to beat one of them for their spot, for their minutes. You got to do something to outwork one of those three for their minutes. Because until then, you're fourth on the pecking order. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, so all the work that Billy, Jimmy, and Dean do, you better be doing twice as much. Because if not, you're never going to catch up to them. And so
Exactly.
it sets those expectations. And then some kids are like, well, I'm never going to get there, so I quit. And that's fine. You can quit. Some kids are going to be like, well, I'm going to bust my ass and work and the results don't come. You become a better player though. So you help us in the long run. And then there are some kids who just say, I'm going all in, and they overtake that person. They become better than that person because they were pushing themselves to the limit versus just doing the work. I'll try a little, like not really doing the work.
Exactly. So I'm gonna kind of transition here. So what's your favorite? Do you have a press that you use, or what's
You
your favorite press?
we use right now a lot, and I change presses up based on the team that I've got, right? So I'm a big proponent. You build your offense and you build your defense around the players that you got. You can't run the same stuff all the time.
Exactly.
Teams will be different. Your team from year to year, like my team last year, my starting five from front to back, from my point guard to my center, the average height, and it didn't matter, from the center was 6'8", and everybody else was 6'6", 6'5". All the same type of players, athletic as shit, long, lean, big, tall kids, long arms. So in that, we played a 1-2-1-1. The entire year, we played 1-2-1-1. And the center, your job is a goalie. You just stay at the back. Nobody gets a free layup. You block the shit out of anything, or you take a charge, or both. Everybody else, you are just use those long arms to swarm the ball. Like you're swarming the crap out of the ball. Arms are all over the place. Because most guards, like my starting backcourt last year, was 6'5", 6'7", 6'6". That's my 1, 2, and 3. So you're putting pressure on the ball. You don't have to be fast, but the minute you pick up the ball, get those gorilla tarantula arms going at the guards that are all 6 feet tall. They can't see over you. So, my boys team this year, I got a different team. I still have the 6'6" kid because that's my son. But now I got 2 little guards that are 6 feet, 2 little point guards. Well, now I got to change the dynamic. So now this year we run a 1-2-2. So I got 2 bigs. I got a 6'10" kid and a 6'8" kid as my back two. And then I've got my 2 little guards that are just like little mosquitoes. They piss everybody off because they're these little tiny fat guys. And then I've got
Yeah.
my son who's the 6'6" guard. He's just going to direct traffic with those long arms to one side or the other. So the bigs, really good job today with regards to communication. I'm going to take the middle. You drop back. I'm going to slide over. You got help. Weak side guard. As soon as the ball gets reversed, you haul ass to get back into the 3. So I'm a big proponent. You got to change up your offense. You got to change up, your defense. Sorry, not your offense. Depending on the personnel that you've got, right? It doesn't mean that it has to be perfect all the time, but it does mean that you can't always run. 4 years ago, I would run a 1-3-1, and that's all I'd run, a 1-3-1 half court trap, and just shade guys into the corner and then blitz the crap out of the corner. It's great, but the personnel that you got, the system has to fit the personnel. And you can work on getting the personnel to fit the system, but that's not kind of how things work. Square peg, round hole, right? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily always work that way. On offense, I'm a big proponent of 4 out. right? I love pulling bigs and pulling guards. All basically we stagger our offense. We have a line of four. The two guards on either side of the wing at about the free throw line, and then two bigs extended above the free throw line, and everything works out of that. And I'm a big proponent of that because bigs need space, and you've got to give big guys opportunity to move without. It's harder if you just put them on the block and they've got to read a double, because now teams double from they double from off ball, they double from on ball, they double from corner.
Yep.
So when you space bigs out, four above the lane, and you pull them above the free throw line, bigs get great opportunity to, one, brush screens, ball screens, ghost screens. There's all this room to pitch and catch. Like I said, we've got a 6'10" kid and we've got a 6'8" kid, and the 6'8" kid he's phenomenal. One of the hardest working kids I've ever had. He's about to sign with the University of Waterloo this week. So great kid, fundamentally sound, good touch around the net, great post footwork. We can throw him, a touch anywhere in the net, and his drop step and fade, and it reminds me of Dirk Nowinski. I won't lie to you. Like, that's what he reminds me of. And then the other big guy, the 6'10" kid, he just doesn't do anything but dunk and block shots. He doesn't want to do anything else. He literally just, all I want to do is he averages about 4 or 5 blocks a game, maybe 10 to 12 rebounds a game. And the only thing he asks for is, coach, just make sure I get 1 or 2 dunks a game. That's all I need. And when you get a kid that's that size with that type of athleticism, I mean, it's just fun. It's awesome. Okay. All I got to do is get you 2 dunks. I get you 2 dunks, no problem. We can put you in a pick and roll on every other play. Every time they switch a guard, just throw it at the rim. And his athleticism, I've seen kids. I've coached a lot of kids and seen a lot of kids, in and around the GTA. This kid could take a nickel off the top of a backboard. Like, he just has that type. And the funny thing is, you go back 2 years ago, he never played basketball. He didn't touch a ball until 2 years ago. He's a rugby player, so he's got a little bit of grit to him too. Big kid, came out of nowhere. Just turned 19, so he tells me all the time, coach, next time we go to the game, he's in France right now with his family, so he missed today's games, but next time we go to the game, you and me are going out for a beer. And I'm like, I am not drinking with one of my players, guys. Like, no, we're not having a beer after. Sorry, no. It just sets the wrong. Oh, come on, coach. I'm legal. It's legal. Don't worry. I'm 19. I'm allowed to drink now. I said, it's not that. It just sets the wrong expectation. I'm not having a beer with them. Maybe in 5 years when you're graduated and we come back, sure. So those are, my 2 thoughts on offense and defense. I love the 4-out stuff. I love running pick and rolls on stuff, go screens, back screens. But again, as I allude to, same principles on defense. It's what do you have on offense to work with? Like, what do you got? Because if you've got 5 guys that are all under 6 feet and they're all guards and you don't have a big, well, then running 4 out, then my thought would be just run 5 out. You don't need to run anything but 5 out.
Exactly.
They're all, one of them's going to be quicker than the big guy that's guarding them, and just take that guy in isolation. Yeah, that's kind of where we stand with that.
So that's typically what we have is under 6 foot. Like, we'll get all the kids that are under 6 foot, but they could either dribble and shoot. But we've really not had, we haven't had a 6-footer, but we've had some come in within the last few years. So it's like, oh, cool. Like, we got some height now. So we've been able to run a little more stuff for our bigs in that way. So how do you teach the fast break decision making with your squads?
So one thing that I do with our guys, and I started it with the girls and same with the boys. I love, quick transition points. Mom took them. I don't know where the other set of keys is. Shut it, please, bud. One of the things that I love is quick transition points. But the biggest, one of the biggest things, and to be honest with you, I caught this a lot out of Kentucky the last couple of years. Patino does it a lot. The Duke guys do it now, specifically with Ingram on their team. You got to have a really good shooter. I'm fortunate. I've got 3 kids that can stroke the 3. My son's a really good 3-point shooter. So, we push for transition, but the biggest thing for me is the guy that gets the rebound starts the break. Outlet to guard. Don't care where the guard is. The first guy up ahead of the break, run to the corner. Don't care where you go. Run to the right corner, run to the left corner, and then go from there. You push ball and get to the corner. As soon as you cross half court, throw that ball to the corner, right? So now the corner guy's making the read, okay? Most defenses because you're running, they're scrambling to get back. Their role will be, oh, there's a guy in the 3. I got to close out. So you push that ball to the 3. As soon as that ball gets to the 3 and you've given it up, if you run the lane, you're most likely going to get a layup. But even if you don't, and this is where the secondary break becomes big. Even if you don't, if you just run through the middle of the key, you draw the attention. Now the guy that rebounded the ball, if he's got a little bit of hustle in his step, if he follows you as a secondary trail, 95% of the time, there's nobody there. He's left to himself. He just gets an uncontested layup. Now, you can always shoot the 3 in the corner right away. And again, goes back to my philosophy of if it's there and you want to take it, get it up. But that push to the corner, push through the middle, and then have a trail through after you just left, the secondary trail is always open. Like I can honestly, if you look up, and we've got a YouTube channel called Oxford Elite 1, so you can look it up. A lot of our breaks you see on it, that secondary guy, the guy that pulls to the middle, it's a dunk. There's nobody there. You've pulled everybody through with the guy that passed the ball just running the floor. You've pulled everybody else through. So there's nobody. And most bigs, they get caught still looking back and they're not running. If you're willing to do the dirty work, and that's what I'm saying, the hustle, the extra effort, if you're willing to run the floor, you get 2 points just because you're going to outwork the guy. So,
Yeah.
That breakout, if you watch a lot of the college teams do it now. Actually, it's funny. I was watching St. John's last night, and they must have run, and they're not a good shooting team by any means, but they must run that break and that secondary break with the big through. The Obaji kid must have had 4 dunks in the first half, just running behind Richardson as he cleared out the middle. He just followed him right behind it. Bang, dunk, bang, dunk. And I'm going, that looks so familiar because I probably did that about 4 times last weekend. Pushing to the corners, either side, it doesn't matter for me, is big. And that goes back to one of the things we talked about earlier. The 3-point shot has really changed the game. In my day when I played in college, we would walk the ball at the floor. You're getting into a half court set, and you might get a 3 out of it, but nowhere near the pace of the transition that you're seeing happen now. Like, it's a lot of the kids, and I know 2 or 3 kids on my team, if they push and run to the corner and they're left wide open, you're not looking for a secondary trail. Like, they're shooting the ball. Like, I know they're shooting the ball, and I'm okay with that because it's 10 seconds, not even 5 seconds. You get a shot. If it goes in, you're up 3. If it doesn't, who cares? You're running back and playing defense anyway.
Exactly. So situational basketball, how do you have any specific strategies to execute in high pressure moments? So like end of game
So
scenarios.
there's 3 or 4 sets that I go to depending on, and a lot depends on what the other team's doing for defense, right? If we're playing a zone or they're playing man. The team that I've had both this year, and I say this, and I say it with all my son, my younger son is one of the best shooters I've ever seen. Like, he is, and I'm not saying that because he's my son, because I hate saying that because it sounds like dad's brag.
Yeah.
It really is, but he really is. We're in a small town of 50,000 people. We've had a couple of kids that have gone Division 1, and I've had referees and players see me be like, "Look, I've been in this town for 30 years, and I saw this guy, this guy, and this guy. This guy plays in Portugal, or this guy plays here. In 30 years, I've never seen a kid come through this town that shoots the ball the way your son does. Like, he will make shots." Even to me, some of the stuff he shoots. How the fuck do you practice that? Like, you're pulling up the logo, right? Like, you're pulling up from the logo and shooting it, and you're not even hesitating, and it's in. Like, it's in. So we played his high school team because he's just started for me this year, but his high school team played a tournament this year, and I'm no joke. He had 68 points himself. He had just over 18 threes. The other team only scored 62. He outscored the other team by himself. So, I'm fortunate, and as much as I say I taught him everything he knows, I didn't. He did. Go back to, he put in the work. Him and his brother working out together, doing the work. Dad, here's what you got to do. Him and his brother putting in the work. Him and his brother doing that stuff. I'm fortunate now this year because he was my best shooter on last year's team. Now I've got 2 more kids that came out of nowhere, little guards, that shoot the ball at a high clip as well. So now I've got 3 kids that all stretch the floor and 1 big whose footwork is, phenomenal. He's a Kevin McHale type of footwork post guy. Low, get down, get dirty, great on the offensive glass, rebounds his own misses at a rate that I'm just like, Jesus, because he knows where the ball's going to be because he's the one that missed it.
Yeah.
Which is tough. It's tough to teach kids that. They figure it out on their own. The good ones do. So, I've got 3 shooters on the floor and I've got 2 big guys. One that the only thing he wants to do is rebound, and the other one who's got great spacing and footwork. So 2 years ago, I had a similar setup. I put in a play, post player going to touch the ball first. Guards are going to do an exchange and a switch. And if the defense gets caught, we're going to get a 3 out of it. And worst case scenario, the post player is going to get a ball and just go to work. You do whatever you want. We're going to make a read off whatever you do. If it's one-on-one, take it to the net. And if it's not one-on-one, we'll figure something else out. So a lot of stuff depends. I really love putting guys in pick and roll. We do a lot. I don't know if you know what Spain is, like Spain action.
Yeah.
Run a lot of Spain, like a lot of Spain stuff. And we'll run different variations of Spain. But with the guys that we have that can shoot, it's such a great little setup. You need a 3 or you need a 2, you can always get a read. Sometimes you got to make sure that the bigs understand, hey, roll, but do a short roll. Don't like just do hard and dive, like do a short roll and catch it around the free throw line. So it's a nice, easy decision. You get 1 dribble and it's there, or 1 dribble and it's a kick out. So it's all situational stuff that we do, but Spain is an offense, love running. When we get something, because you can get a dump down, a dive down, a 3, or a backside cut, because the defender cheats so far up to guard the big that if he comes off and the other guy cuts, it's a touch pass to the big and a guy cutting. We got 2 of those today, which I was very impressed. Like our team, and I'm just coming home from a game, so I'm going to download the video of the games today. But our team's ball, we didn't shoot the ball well. I'll be the first one to tell you, we did not shoot the ball well. It's been a long week. We're on March break here, so we only had 1 practice. We'd have 3. We didn't shoot the ball well, but the ball movement today, one thing I drill on the guys: no heroes. Don't be a hero on this team. You're all good enough. You don't need to be a hero. Everybody eats. If everybody eats, we're going to be tough to beat. And the ball movement today. Now the shots didn't fall, but I tell you, if they did, the games would have been over 100 points. We put 78 up and 76 or 72. If they'd made all of let's say 40% of their threes or 30% of their threes, we would have been over 100 points. And that to me is okay. You're willing. There's a couple of times where somebody tried to be a hero, which, okay, you're going to the bench, slow down. Like, don't need you to be that guy. But then a whole bunch of the other times, just such good ball movement. And, it doesn't go in, that's fine. It just shows that willing and that trust, which is, to be honest, for today's games, we're missing 2 starters. We're missing that 6'10" kid. He's in France. And then one of the other kids plays prep basketball. He's not back until the end of the month. He's playing in China on an amateur pro series to touring around China right now. So it's kind of cool for him. Great experience for him to go to China for, a month or 3. I'm just happy we won 2 games. That's all. I'm missing 2 starters. I got 2 bench players coming off the bench, and somehow, some way, we end up walking away with 2 victories. So that to me is like, okay, sweet. I'll take it.
Yeah. All right. One kind of last question. How do you, well, I know that this probably helps you with your son being on like your teams and coaching your kids. But like, how do you utilize your assistant coaches? Or do you have assistant coaches that you utilize to kind of, hey, I'm trying to tell him this, but maybe if you tell him this, it would be
So
beneficial.
on the boys team, on the U19 team or U18 team, I've got my older son, who is in university, playing university and college ball right now. So he's back in another 3 weeks because their school is done. He's my assistant coach. So it's great coming from me, but when it comes from a university player, you're going to listen.
Yeah.
You're trying to get there. So that is really, really helpful. It's especially helpful, and I won't say this aloud, especially helpful with my younger son, because sometimes he won't listen to me because I'm dad, and no matter what, you're wrong.
Yeah.
But when it comes from my older son, different story. It's taken with a different grain of salt. So that's always helpful. On top of that, I've got another assistant coach who actually just finished playing where my son plays now. He's gone for 2 weeks to Portugal because he signed an amateur pro, like a contract with an agent. And he's looking at playing in Portugal and Greece right now, in Syria, Division B and Division A. So he'll be back. Hopefully he signs on and he takes a contract, but if he doesn't, he'll be back for later half of April. For the girls team, I've got a great assistant. Emily Pruxton is her name. She played for the club back in the 90s when she's a high school teacher, and a high school teacher. She's a coach for her local high school team. So she came on and started coaching about 2 years ago with me. Great girl, still relatively new, and she's learning a lot as we go along the way. But she's very much a firecracker on the bench. She's got me kicked out of 2 games. Because she argues with the ref, and the girls see her with that type of speak. So she's a big proponent of making sure that when the girls check in, they know what the expectations are. They know who they're guarding. They know what offense we're running. They know what defense we're running. They know where we're trying to get to on the floor before they go into the game. She's at every practice. She's always there helping. She runs some of the practices when I can't attend because I'm off either at work or I'm somewhere in the States for work. So she's really good at making the message clear and consistent, at the same as me, because she's kind of just learning basketball the same way, the girls are learning at the same time with me teaching it to her at the same time. So both teams, a little bit different dynamic and experience. The boys team a little more so. They've got university and college players coming back that used to play for me, and they're the assistant coaches with me. So it's okay. Coach says one thing, I don't want to listen to coach. Okay, I'm telling you. Okay, yeah, I'll listen to you because you're playing right now where I want to be next year. I want to be doing next year.
Yep.
So a little bit different. Great to have both people involved. I wouldn't trade one for another for sure. They're both the boys. My older son, and his best friend, Tyler Grievers and Jackson Halward. Love those two being on the bench. And again, it's from a dad's perspective. I get the best of both worlds, right? Because I get both my sons on the team again, playing with me. One's coaching because he's not allowed to play because he's overage, but so it's always a little bit. It's definitely a family thing for us. It started off very small, nerve tightness, and it's gone full circle for sure. So yeah, assistant coaches are really, really a big, and I don't know how it is in the States, but in Canada here, huge asset. And I don't think, from what I see, a lot of coaches I see where they're assistant coaches, they're just there and they're statisticians, and they're taking stats, or this guy shot this, or this guy. You can do that. You can do that on your own afterwards when you watch the video yourself. You can write down who hit what. Assistant coaches should be, in my opinion, there to make sure that when the next 2 guys that are coming off the bench, or the next guys that are coming off the bench, he knows what we're playing on defense. He knows what we're doing on offense. He knows what who he's guarding. He knows the tendencies based on what he's been watching on the floor of the other player. And the assistant coaches, I don't have time to do that, right? I can tell the player when he goes to check in, but the assistant coaches should be drilling that stuff into them because they should be seeing it themselves. And then saying, hey, when you go in, remember, this guy likes to pull up going left, even though he's a righty. He comes off a screen and he tries to dip under the screen and push dribble through, blitz that, close that gap so that he doesn't get there. So those are all little things that if you have a good assistant coach, they're picking up on that. And that message is what's being given to the player before he steps on the court, right? Because there are sometimes what I see with kids is they go to sub in the game, and for the first minute and a half, they're trying to figure stuff out. I've got a new kid this year. That's him. He steps on the floor, he's trying to out, and I pull him away and I'll take him off and be like, dude, what are you doing? He'd be like, what are you talking about, coach? I just got. I'm like, but what have you been watching for the last 8 minutes that you've been sitting on the bench? Like, you're going in for him. So watch what the defense is doing when they guard him. Watch what he's doing on offense when he guard him. Like, you shouldn't just be sitting on the bench cheering. That goes without saying. You should be cheering and motivating. But you have a job to do when you get in. And what you're getting is you get to watch a TV show of what the team is doing that you have to play before you've got to go play it. That's your advantage. The starters don't get that option. You do. So,
yeah.
That sort of mentality and that's the extension of a coach to an assistant coach on the bench, right? To push that message along. Some kids just get caught up with watching the game. They just watch the game, and that's if you really want to have an impact and you want to be a player, that's the stuff. Those are the little things that you got to pick up on. Those are the little things that if you're trying to make it to the next level, those give you, if you're a guy that doesn't start, then watching what the player that you're going to have to check in for him has to do and how he's guarding him and how he's playing offense is such an advantage. I get this guy's right-handed, so I know if I push him left, he's going to be weaker, right? Those are things you can pick up sitting on the bench. How many players actually focus on that? How many players actually pay attention to that? Your assistant coach, if you have one or two, should be doing that to the player before you do. So that when it comes up, he gets up off the bench. Hey, this is what we're saying. This is what I'm seeing. This is what, you need to focus on this part. Take him out of this part of the comfort zone. Push him to the right. He loves coming back left. Push him to the right. Keep pushing him and we'll send help. So those things, as far as an assistant coach, is where they're most beneficial and helpful. I'm fortunate right now. I have one for the girls. I don't have one yet for the boys, but he's coming home at the end of the month. So
Yeah, for me, I had a really good assistant this year. And he was like, "Hey, you gotta look out for this." And he also kind of maintained the bench, made sure that everyone kind of knew what we were in during the game and all that stuff. So really beneficial to have a really good assistant. My assistant also knew kind of what I was thinking. So
definitely,
um,
definitely helps. You know,
it definitely helps.
I'm fortunate my son played for me, like my older one that's coming back to my assistant. He's played for me since he was 5. So I don't have to worry too much about him knowing what I'm thinking because my phone's gonna die here.
No,
No, it's okay. I was gonna plug it in here. My son kind of knows what I'm thinking because that's what he was taught from the time he's 5 or 6 years old. So
yeah.
even though he'll tell me he knows more than me all the time, like it's never. I don't know more than you.
All right. That's pretty much it, Coach. If I'll let you kind of get to whatever you got to do, but it was a pleasure to have you on the
No, appreciate it
podcast.
and really appreciate having me. I will. I'm going to go back and look at how many times I've screwed up during this interview. I'm sure it's going to be posted on
Oh,
the podcast.
I don't care. Well, it'll
All
probably
good,
be up
but
in April, I'm
nice,
thinking.
nice.
So, all right. I
All
will
right.
keep in touch with you.
Yeah, like I said, anytime, man. If you ever want to reach out, you're looking for some more, anytime, reach out to me, man. All the best, dude. Good luck with your season. I hope things work out well.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Take care, brother.
Yep. You too.